She has one. The first one I'm incredibly jealous of. In fact, the first two I'm incredibly jealous of. The third one's just weird. She has a trophy that is made from, among other things, a piece of the first ever Concorde. How I would like one of those. She's also an ambassador for the Bloodhound SSC, which is the next stage of the car called Thrust SSC, which broke the sound barrier, and they're attempting to go 1,000 miles an hour in a car. The third fact is that she can sleep with her eyes open. Which is just a bit weird. Ladies and gentlemen, Ruth.
I do have notes. It's plainly because I'm really crap at keeping to time. We're going to try though. We may have to speed up a little bit fast.
Ready?
Okay, off we go. Okay, so I know the theme is Sheffield Culture. I didn't really do Sheffield Culture. I did that at the end. We're talking about world culture. And yes, culture does continue out of Sheffield. I know, a bit of a shock. But hopefully we're going to look at that bigger view and bring it back to us later on. Oh, this 20 seconds are going quite long. Quite like this. Okay, I've always thought I lead quite a cultural life. However, having done a bit of research, got me a little bit more confused, not quite sure. Some of it kind of justified what I thought culture was. Some of it confused me. My PA came with a whole 5 pages of 6 different kind of definitions that books have given me about culture. Just kind of freaked me out more than anything. So we're going to kind of start with some stuff I think I know. One of my favourite ones that I found was about culture being the pursuit of total perfection. And as a slightly perfectionist, OCD sort of person, this kind of really appealed to me. And it kind of, there was a concept that culture is comparable to something called Bildungus, which I probably pronounced completely wrong, and is about creation and education in Germany. So I came across some quite interesting facts. Apparently, animals, especially apes, have culture. In the 19th century, you could actually buy yourself culture. You could actually buy yourself to be a cultural person. And nearly 2/3 of people aged 15 and over said they attended the cinema, while fewer than 1 in 10 said they went to any sort of ballet, opera, or theatre-based activity. So science, what does science say about culture? Well, it's all about kind of the totality of socially transmitted behavioural patterns, which sounds very intense. That all kind of projects of human work and thoughts are culture, that it's learned and shared within social groups, and it's non-genetic. Which for the scientist in me kind of raises a couple of questions. It seems that they're saying that a cultural person is made and not born, and there's some places that I kind of disagree with that. Does culture come from within? Is it the kind of nature versus nurture thing? And also about the inclusiveness of culture. There's a couple of my thoughts that I definitely wouldn't count as culture. So when it comes to culture, we're often very narrow-minded, and I find myself seeing people and being quite surprised that they read a certain book, that they go and see certain plays. So I think we're quite narrow-minded when we see people and think about culture. And it's also kind of what is a cultural person. So, off into the land of kind of Ruth thinking, bizarre. Creation and education. I think these 2 words kind of sum up a lot for me about what culture is, and whether it's an object or an idea, it's a spark that makes people look at themselves and the world around them. Something that leads to a greater awareness, and it's all kind of pretty deep. I personally think that culture creates wisdom. This brings me nicely into education. Culture is about learning, whether it's learning about yourself, others, or the world around you. Hopefully, we're constantly learning from the day that we're born to the day that we die. We can never hope to know everything, and I quite frankly don't think any of us would want to. But culture teaches us, and it has a place in education, which brings me to the funding of culture and the arts. People always complain about young people, and I do a lot of work with young people, and the young people that are exposed to the arts are definitely not the ones that are giving us the bad publicity. So I think that culture has a big part in creating a positive society. That's the end of my rant. Culture, one of the first definitions I came across was about agriculture. So it was about kind of cultivating people, whether it's kind of personal pruning, feeding, and finding the right light. So this is my analogy, culture, building the house of culture. So the ground's important, that's what we build on. So we've got the foundations. What are the foundations of culture? So I decided to look at play. Because for me, play is something we do from a very young age, and it involves imagination. And imagination for me is one of the holy grails of life, and it's the foundations of literature and the arts. So therefore, play is my foundation of my house. What about brickwork? Good bricks is like good content. So content's important. Is Shakespeare more cultural than Agatha Christie? So, maybe quite a deep question, I feel. Now, personally, I'd say yes. I think that there's a lot of layers in Shakespeare and all of that, but it's the same questions arising again and again about how you quantify something that is magically unquantifiable. Language. Language for me is my services, my electricity and my water. Si vous parlez une autre langue, vous êtes considéré comme mes cultures. That was sign language, only learned Wednesday, not very good. So how we communicate is important. You can captivate or break a person's heart with the way that a sentence is said, the way that you look at them, and the way that we talk with our bodies. And I think being able to communicate is a sign that someone's cultured. The way that maybe one day they'll create a scale where we'll all be judged on how cultured we are. But anyway, what's a house without furniture? And for me, fashion is my furniture. So many disagree, but fashion's affects us. That image, positive or negative effect. But fashion's a massive part of how we view the world and others, how we judge people. And my boots, what my mother says about them may be different to me, but it's something that's controversial, and that's what it's about. So I have my house, very basic house. I could go into a lot more detail, but the thing for me is that my house is different from your house. The things that I think culture is very different to what you think culture is. It depends on the what, the where, and the who. And I don't think you can actually tick it. I think the government says we can have, yes, it's a city of culture, but I think once we start ticking the box, that's when we lose the culture. We start going for the whole mass rollout culture instead of looking at the personal culture, what is important to us as individuals. You can't please everyone, and I think that's where sometimes trying to go for something on a national level gets quite hard, because actually we should just stick to what we're good at. And I think that Sheffield has a cultural, it has kind of a feel. It's the way that it makes you feel, it's the way that it looks in the rain, it's the people around it, and I think that is what affects people, and that's what makes people feel different, and affecting is, for me, what culture is about. And so, there are my 8 values of my cultural house. Imagination, inspiration, personal influences, education, creation, knowledge, and wisdom. Thank you very much.